Okay, so this video is going to be even more all over the place than the rest of my videos. But oh well, sometimes I'm just too exhausted to make sense of what it is I'm trying to say, okay? So consider supporting me on Patreon if you're able to. Do subscribe to my social media accounts, the other ones. Maybe I will do something there, I don't know. But today I just wanted to talk largely about the projections, the delirium, Lacanian delirium, the dialogue with the other, and how our cognitive perceptions, of course, are ideological, and how free time, Marina Burik's concept of free time, is inevitably what's going to help it all, and help us finally find a way out of capitalism. Of course, if you're new to this channel, I do suggest you go on and watch some of my other videos, especially in Marina Burik's playlist, A Virtualized World of Capitalism, which is a very helpful book to read. No, it is not available in English, unfortunately. The author does not have the funds to translate this book. We will see, maybe we will come up with something together, I don't know. As of now, it is not going to be translated. But so the projection is Anna Freud's concept. It talks about it is one of the defense mechanisms that Anna Freud discovered appear in individuals who have been traumatized. And this is one of the major ones, but there are many, many, many different types of defense mechanisms. They all occur because our nervous systems, our psyches, find some concepts, some things happening to us unacceptable, right? We cannot process them as children or young people or even as adults. And this is when we start coming up with different ways of dealing with that. We don't do that consciously, it all happens unconsciously. The next concept is the Lacanian delirium, and it is when you start speaking to yourself, basically, you speak to your perceived social other. So the dialogue with the other, this is how Lacan put it, is when you do some kind of a symptomatic speech. So you're not necessarily talking about the topic at hand, you're talking about something that may be bothering you deep within, but you speak in a type of a code that even you yourself may not understand. And delirium found it helpful to analyze and deconstruct people's deliriums in order to get to the bottom of their issue, because more often than not, people, the patients themselves, they did not understand their delirium, and their delirium did not necessarily sound crazy, is that they would have either unusual associations or they would start thinking about something out of nowhere, and they would start talking about something seemingly out of nowhere. But Lacan found connections, and he was able to interpret people's delirium, and I am observing a lot more delirium in people nowadays, and of course it is a part of the ideology in a virtualized world of capitalism. We don't need wholesome, non-fragmented individuals. We need people who are functions. We need people who can do a little bit of a task to earn some surplus value for their master, and then they need to shut up and go to their corner to consume. And of course, such individuals are going to be very deeply alienated, and they're going to develop not only all kinds of defense mechanisms, but I would personally argue we would go insane if we do not continuously seek out the aspects of the truth, beauty, and kindness, as Marina Burik puts it. And of course, it's very hard to do, nearly impossible to do individually and surrounded by all the ideological constructs. Again, ideology is neither bad nor good. It's just something that exists to prop up the existing economic system. And I think that communist ideology does exist too, even though this is something that many people argue with, and this is a point of contention within socialist and communist circles. But I insist that communist ideology is necessary, at least now. But the delirium, I see personally to be kind of a continuation of Anna Freud's thought. I have not extensively read neither of these researchers of the human soul, but what I have read points to me that Lacan, of course, was aware of Anna Freud's, I would assume, of Anna Freud's theory, because it was so famous, it became very famous, and it's still used very largely because it contains a lot of truth to it. The way we react to the world is very defensive, because we need to protect ourselves, because our families are unfortunately fragmented as well. And so when we're children, when we are grown up, we're not surrounded by safety and kindness and acceptance. So we need to find ways to survive. And again, it doesn't happen consciously, it happens unconsciously. And Lacan, I think, was able to take it to the next level and showcase to us that this can be deciphered not just from the viewpoint of, oh, look at me, I'm projecting or I'm defending myself in one way or another, and I don't want to because it's bad. This takes us to the next level. I think it takes us to the level where you look at the way your behavior changes because of your inability to perceive the truth, and then you say, wait a minute, I actually want to know the truth. I see within myself, in this example that I'm giving you, that I'm not seeing the world clearly, I'm not seeing anything clearly, because I'm obviously protecting myself from further damage because I have been traumatized. So, but what if I look at the truth? Is the truth as scary as my nervous system makes it out to be? And this is what I think is very helpful in the process of freeing your time. Because Marina Burik, as I mentioned before in some of my videos, Marina Burik suggests freeing our time is not to do less work necessarily, but usually that would imply that, but to free up the time to govern over our own lives. Which means it is not the time when you are resting. It is not the time when you are just doing whatever you want. This is the time when you get to actually decide what's going to happen to you, and not just sit and plan, but actually do something. So kind of like pretending you're in a people's committee, pretending that you are already living under communism and what it is you want your life to look like, and doing something tangible in order to achieve that. And obviously nowadays it's nearly impossible to do that, because the vast majority of our choices are limited by what we can buy, whether it is our free time that we can purchase back from our employer, or it is some kind of gimmick, it is some kind of strategy, some kind of drug, be it, products or what have you. And unfortunately, we are unable to free up our time. And also the direct collective experiences is another aspect that Marina points out. You are not just going to need free time where you will be able to govern over your own life, but you will need to do it with other people, with a group of other people. So here immediately we see another problem already. We need to do this with other people. We need to do this collectively. And this is where a lot of people would think that, okay, we're not going to be able to do that. Let's just forget about it. It's never going to work. We're never going to agree on anything. And of course, if you think on the macro level or the big level, whatever it is called, yes, you're not going to be able to govern over where the roads are built around you, what kind of infrastructure is available to you, what kind of transportation is available to you, what kind of food is available to you. You will most likely not be able to govern over this because you do not have access to the means of production. But what you may have access to is other people. And when you start talking to other people about your daily struggles, about the little things that you can change, this is the area of freedom. So when you get to connect to other people directly, without the internet, without any other kind of tools, this is where you get to try and actually exercise your free will. And this is where you may actually have a little bit of an impact. And because we're so used to a large scale, because we're so used to these large numbers, we always look on YouTube and we see people with millions of subscribers and millions of views, and we think this is normal. Seeing large numbers has become very normalized in the modern age. But think about your ancestors. Think about like 2-3 generations back. Have your great-grandparents ever talked to more than 100 people? Have they ever talked to more than 1,000 people? And this should give you a little bit of insight on just how much our collective perception of numbers is leading us to believe that we cannot have any impact. We've got to become a little bit more modest. We've got to realize that every single one of us has a little minor part. We're not superheroes. It's not about us. We're not the main characters, okay? But we still can have an impact. But this is going to be a little bitty impact, and that is okay. And we've got to come to terms with the fact that if we're able to influence 2-3 people, if we're able to exercise our free will in a way where other people will start thinking about how to make a world a better place together with us, then we've made a significant impact, because many people don't even do that. So we've got to think of how we are able to do the small things. And it is not even about the whole domino effect, the butterfly effect. It is about you taking charge of your own life right now. And this is how you also get to exercise looking at the truth. Because when you imagine yourself being this grandiose person, when you think of yourself and your future, if you're not depressed, you may be hopeful. But when you start exercising your autonomy, your agency with one person, 2 people, a little group of people, when you start talking freely about how you're unhappy about the injustices that are happening in the world, about how you wish things were this way and that way for these reasons, this is when you feel much more empowered and you feel much more optimistic. Even if it's just for a day, even if it's just for a little while, it is still necessary to do, because otherwise you won't do anything and just sit there and be sad and lonely and isolated. And this is what is very convenient for the status quo, because sad, lonely people who don't believe they can make an impact are great consumers who are going to continue purchasing more and more drugs, whatever they may be, items, cars, whatever. In this economy, of course, very few people can afford cars anymore. But this is very convenient for us to think that, oh, this little impact is not going to do anything, so why bother? Well, bother for your own sake. Because if we circle back to the beginning of the video when I talked about projections and delirium, when you start examining your own projections and your own delirium, if you're capable of catching it, which is very hard, I must admit, you notice that it is not for the sake of other people necessarily that you want to change your behavioral patterns. Of course, if you change your behavioral patterns, probably you will be a little bit easier to be around. It's going to be easier for you to cooperate with other people. But if you do it for the sake of yourself, if you look at the way you act and you notice that, oh, well, I don't actually understand what's happening around me. I don't see the truth. I don't understand. I want to understand. Then your life is going to improve. Because seeing the truth is better than living in this sick delusion we're all convinced we're living in. This is what exiting the matrix is like for me. It is being able to see the world without all of this ideology of capitalism. And of course, we will never be completely free from ideology, but what we need to practice in order to improve this is direct collective experiences during our free time, which shouldn't be focused on some kind of leisure. It should be focused on guiding our own path into liberation. And it is going to be a slow process at first, but then it's going to accelerate. And I think it's going to be accelerating pretty quickly for a lot of people because of the inevitable changes that happen to the world. And I hope that we come to the changes a little bit more equipped, a little bit more prepared. And hopefully this video made sense. Let me know what you think. Consider supporting me on Patreon. Do take care of yourself and your community first. Subscribe to me on all the social medias, even though I don't do much there. And I'll talk to you sometime later and hope you have a great day today.